All right, but man, today is Thursday. It is February 1st. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. I have a local job interview today. I'm joined by Johnny Maestranzi from Maestranzi Sons. And Johnny, you are a knife sharpener. You are part of a knife sharpening empire. Is that right?
That is correct.
So, actually, shout out to Dante. He put me in touch with you years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have so many random emails and little spots where I take notes or I'm trying to bring people in to do these. And somehow you got shuffled by the wayside. So I'm happy to have you here. I'm excited to talk about knife sharpening because I always find it interesting, like the little things like this that just kind of people don't really think about.
Yeah.
And that this is like probably like example A of like a thing that just goes underlooked. Like how are all these restaurants and grocery stores and whatnot having their knives like ready to go on a daily basis? And it's because of companies like yours.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's your who owns the company? Is your parents' company or what's how does it work? How did this begin? How did that all go down?
Well, yeah, this company, I'm one of the owners. I run it with my brother,
Nice.
Jake. He's actually down in Dallas. He runs our Texas operation. And my other two brothers, I got three other brothers that were involved at different times, but a lot of my family's involved with the company. We've been going for about 12 years. The industry's been in my family for generations, dating back to Italy, but we started this one 12 years ago. My father had his own company for a long time. He started when he was young, went off on his own. He had his own company for a long time, eventually merged and retired. And then once I got out of college, I went to the University of Illinois, and I got out, got a job, and he came to me and my brothers with an opportunity and said, hey, there's a need to get back in the industry. I've been hearing from old customers. Would you want to start a knife business? I'll show you how to do it. I'll introduce you to people. I'll show you how to do it the right way, the old school way, sharpening everything by hand. And I said, let's try, let's do it. And we started very small here in Chicago, going door to door, one by one. And now we're pretty much nationwide, covering almost all the states. We just started up in California, in LA, San Diego area a couple of years ago. We're back in Florida. We're expanding as far as we can go.
No shit. So your dad had his own business and he's like, hey, there's a lot more opportunity here. There's a lot more food that can just be put on my table. So I'll bring it to my sons. And you guys are like, sure, we'll get in the business. And you guys started your own offshoot of a company.
Yeah, exactly. He showed us how to do it, and then we took off from there, going door to door. We developed good relationships with our customers, and our customers started expanding into different parts of the country, asked us if we can go wherever they go, and we did. So then we went to Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, Minnesota, all the Midwest, and then eventually we tried other areas, Florida and California, Texas. Like I said, my brother is down there. He's a big fan of your guys.
Oh.
So shout out to him. But yeah, he's been growing our Texas area very well, and we're trying to keep it going as long as we can.
And when you say door to door, like I said at the beginning, you kind of forewarned me. You're not going to homes. You're going to restaurants and stuff like that.
Correct. Yeah. So we do restaurants, food service, like cafeterias, universities, butcher places, like meat markets, meat processing plants, where they use hundreds of knives. They're butchering all day. We do more like commercial side. We obviously get chefs giving us their high-end knives to sharpen, where we do that by hand, and we get people bringing their knives from home. But our main business is the commercial side.
Gotcha. And what, like, to get one of these started, how much is needed? Like, what is it? Is it extensive? Am I thinking more of it? I'm thinking like some sharpeners and whatnot. What is needed to get one of these off and running?
Well, we provide all the knives, so we do like 2 custom sets for each
okay.
customer.
So you do knives too. I was under the impression that you just sharpen.
No, we that's our thing is we provide the knives, so all the customers are basically renting the knives from us.
Okay.
So we have 2 sets. One set of knives is in the customer kitchen; they're using it, and the other set is being sharpened in our facility. And then our route drivers will run in, drop off the new knives, and pick up the dull knives, so that there's no break in the operation.
Oh, so that's a really good system there.
So yeah, it's a system actually my great grandfather started back in like the 40s or 50s.
Yeah.
Because before that, they used to have these trucks, and they had the sharpening equipment in the trucks, and they would go to each restaurant in the back, run in, grab all the knives, take them back to the truck and sharpen them, and then bring them back in. But that, messes up their flow. They can't use the knives. So they invented this new way. Let's do 2 sets, and we'll sharpen at our facility. You could sharpen way more knives, and then have the route drivers just run in, exchange them real quick, and get out. So that way you can get more volume done and not interrupt the kitchens.
Now, were you the one to start this new format, or was your dad doing this too?
No, my great grandfather back in like the 40s and 50s.
He was doing it old school, but who started the way you were doing, where there's 2 sets, you just swap in, swap out?
Yeah, my great
Oh, he started doing that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
No shit. Okay.
Yeah. So before, it was they'd do it in the truck, and it would take a lot longer. So this was a new way that he did it, and then the rest of the country started following the same way.
I thought you said your grandpa was in the back of the truck doing that. Okay, wow. So obviously a game changer, what that feels like, right?
Yeah, it worked out. So yeah, it's an industry a lot of people don't know about, like that people rent knives and get them sharpened every week. That's actually, it's a funny story, is when I met Dante, I was going to hit one of his new bars that had just opened up, and I went in there and I saw him for the first time, and I introduced myself to him because I know his partner. I'm an old friend of his. And I said, "Hey, I'm Johnny Maestranzi. I'm your knife guy." He's like, "Well, what's a knife guy?" I'm like, "I'm the guy that sharpens your knives every week and exchange them." He's like, "Wait, we have that?" He's like, "I didn't know that industry exists." I'm like, "Yeah, it's almost all I would say 75% of food service places use that."
Yeah, that's why it's interesting, because like I said, I don't think a lot of people know that this exists. I certainly didn't. So what's the typical drop-off pickup? Is it different for every place?
Yeah, it's different for every place. So each restaurant's, have different cuisines and foods, so they use different types of knives. Like a Gibson's will use maybe like 40 or 50 knives, but you have like a little taco place on the corner that might only get like 3 or 4 knives.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different for every scenario.
It just varies. So what was your was it like, how was it initially trying to get people to convert over? Was it tough, or did you find it pretty easily that people were kind of looking for this? Was this a big demand?
Yeah, it's been a demand for as long as I know. The knife sharpening, the rental service that we do has been around since my great grandfather started his company back in like the late 1920s. Mm-hmm. So the industry has been around for a long time. So there's always been demand, especially in Chicago. Everyone that works in the kitchen, like the cooks and the chefs, they know that they need this type of service. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, then you have to go purchase your own knives, which knives are very expensive. Then you have to purchase sharpening equipment, and then you have to have your own employees waste time sharpening the knives themselves, and you don't get it professionally done. So you're spending a lot of time, your cooks and chefs are spending all this time when you could leave it to a service like us for, $15 to $35 a week or every 2 weeks, which is very low cost. And that's what a lot of these restaurants use.
That's
companies
all it
like
is, 15 to 35 a week?
I would say, yeah, that's the average account. I mean, obviously there's bigger restaurants that use like 30, 40, 50 knives that will be much higher, but I would say is our average account.
That's great. That feels pretty doable.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Like an appetizer.
Yeah, yeah. Just sell an extra cheeseburger and a beer, and that covers your knife service bill.
You'll be good to go. So, saying like a random place, like random place, so like maybe like a Gibson's, you said like 50 knives. That's just back of the house knives, right?
Yeah, just back of the house knives.
That's not like the customers.
Correct.
Using
Yeah.
Anybody in that game or no? Or usually restaurants have like their customer knives that they're using for their steak knives. That's kind of a thing that they just let people reuse or what?
We do steak knives as well. Like we do get some customers that have like expensive steak knives that they use at the table, and we'll sharpen those for them because they're, we charge like a low cost, and it's worth it to get them sharpened instead of buying new ones. And especially with like a steakhouse where you have like a nice ribeye, if your knife is sharp and it glides right through the meat, they're going to think it's a great piece of meat. But if they're sawing away and having issues, they're going to think it's not like good quality stuff.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. So that's kind of your sales pitch, huh? You need us. You need to make sure people think that this meat is butter.
Yeah, it should cut like butter.
Yeah, exactly. So 15 to 35 or so, you said, per week to just kind of get, the swap in, swap out process. But there's probably something up front to get the knives, right? Is there like a bigger cost for that?
No, it's just that flat fee every week or every 2 weeks or however often you get the service. We don't charge any like deposit or anything like that. If they cancel service, we just come pick up our equipment.
I mean, I don't know shit about the restaurant industry, but this feels like a good deal.
Yeah, that's why it's so popular.
Yeah,
it's takes that job and responsibilities away from your own employees, and you get good quality knives. I mean, the knives are the tools of the chefs and the cooks. They need to have good quality stuff.
Yeah,
they need to cut safely. Like a sharp knife is a safe knife. So if they're using bad equipment, bad knives, you put a lot more pressure on your cuts, and you have accidents, you have cuts, and then you're spending a lot more on your insurance and hospital bills and things like that.
Yeah, well, you're right about that. How many accounts do you guys have?
I would estimate, I think it's around 3,000 now.
Oh wow, that's great, man.
Yeah,
that's great. So 3,000 all over the nation. Do you remember your first like big Chicago lockdown? Like, were you guys like super pumped?
Yeah, we have a couple great customers that helped us like go nationwide, and they're our top dogs there. Yeah. Like Portillo's is our I would say one of our biggest accounts, and they're the ones that took us to all these different areas around the Midwest. Yeah. We locked those guys down. They took us to Indiana, Wisconsin, Minnesota. They're in Florida, Arizona, California. So we kind of went wherever they opened, and then we're like, okay, let's hit the ground running. Let's go get some more business in these areas.
Yeah, that's great. We love Portillo's. We're doing stuff with them too, so that's awesome.
Yeah,
they're in on it. So what was as far as knives? How long did it take you to get into the business? How long did it take you to become like super knowledgeable about them? Like, did your dad or your grandfather have like a class for you where it's like, here's what you need to know?
Well, my dad's been in it his entire life basically. So growing up, I would go on routes with him on weekends and sometimes in the summer, just go along with them, help change out the knives. So I grew up in the industry, learned about it then, and then basically after college when we started the business, I just learned on the go.
So. What's your typical knife, I guess? Like, does it need to be sharpened weekly though? Is that like a need, or it's just kind of like, hey, let's just get it to tip-top shape because 100% is better than 75%?
Yeah, if it's like a high-volume restaurant or any type of food service place, they're using those knives 10, 12, 14 hours a day. So those knives go dull pretty quick if you're using them that much. And those type of knives, yeah, they should be probably sharpened weekly or bi-weekly, unless you have your employees with equipment, stones or honing steels, maintaining it. It should be sharpened in the commercial side at least every 2 weeks or at the minimum. For knives in your home, things like that, you don't need them sharpened that often. Maybe a couple times a year is good enough if you're only using them, a couple times a week.
Yeah, because this is like my barber told me that the buzzers, those need to be sharpened, obviously.
Oh yeah,
a couple times a year, once a year or something. I used to have a buddy who did he cleaned out the beer lines at like kegs and shit like that, like draft beer. Like that's just little shit like that where it just, I don't know, like the average person like me who's never been in the restaurant industry, you don't think about. Do you get like Like when you look at a knife and you're at a place and you just, what's like a telltale sign that needs to be sharpened? Is there any kind of tell that the average person will be able to see?
Well, yeah, you could just feel the blade. If it's not like biting, I usually test with my nail and see if it bites the knife. If it's sliding right off your nail, you know it's pretty dull. You can tell a dull knife just by feeling it.
Okay.
And that's enough just to get it sharpened.
Mm-hmm. And does it like make you cringe when you go to a place and you see that it's just just not good, like just not sharp?
Yeah, and I could show the customer like if a knife's really dull, I could just run it along my hand and nothing will happen. It will freak them out a little bit, but then they're like, okay, that's really dull. If you can't even
that's part of the sales pitch.
That's a sales pitch. Yeah, my father has this crazy sales pitch where he'll go in and he'll take our sharp knives to show him like these are how sharp our knives are. He'll take it, he'll start shaving his arm with the sharp knives. He's like, these are like razor blades.
Stop.
So, and people remember that. It's like anytime we have an old customer, like, yeah, this crazy guy came in, shaved his arms with these razor blade knives. I took his business right away.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's amazing.
I've only tried it once or twice. I just don't feel comfortable like my arm hair going all over the kitchen. But.
Exactly. Might be something to that. That might be an old school. I love that though. That's
amazing.
It's
an old school.
Yeah.
I remember there was one instance we had a big meeting. It was with Lou Malnati's actually like 10 years ago, and he did the shaving of the arms thing right in their office, and he nicked himself a little bit and he's bleeding all over the place right in the middle of a meeting. He's just like kind of holding his arms, doing his sales pitch. I'm like, okay, doesn't work every time.
Were they freaked out?
A little bit. A little bit.
Did he close it or no?
No, maybe that's why we didn't get that one.
I'm taking the guy who's cutting himself open. But to be honest with you, a deep dish place is probably like they need the sharpest knives.
Oh yeah, they're cutting pizzas nonstop. Dude, so we have tons of pizza places.
Yeah, you need a fucking chainsaw for a Giordano's cheese. Like that is no joke.
Yeah, our pizza knives are like 20 inches long. So.
Yeah. You do the pizza cutter things too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all that shit.
Yeah, everything. Every knife you could think of. We get tons of crazy stuff. People bring in, it's random stuff. All the lawnmower blades to get sharpened sometimes, like samurai swords. I don't know why people need sharp samurai swords at their home, but we get some random crazy stuff all the time.
Really?
To sharpen, yeah.
And that's just like so if someone's listening out there and they just want their knife sharpened, you guys will do that too?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we get walk-ins all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We actually moved to a new facility in 2020, which is right off North Avenue in Mannheim. So we're like not in industrial area anymore. We're more right off the main street. So we get more walk-ins all the time. People bringing their knives from home, or chefs bringing in their knives just to get sharpened. And we do it 10-15 minutes.
No shit. You're in Melrose Park then?
Stone
right?
Park.
Stone Park. I got you.
Little corner.
Yeah. No shit. So talk about the knife sharpening process. So I heard you say stone. I heard you say something else.
Yeah.
What goes into that?
Yeah, so we have a 3-step process. It's 3 main machines that we use. We use our hollow grinder. It basically thins out the blade. It's 2 revolving stones. And then we have a large stand-up grinder that they edge the knife on. So that's the main, the most important part of the process is the stand-up grinder. We edge the knife by hand, and then at the end we use it's called a honer, and it removes the burr and finishes the knife at the end. And then we put it through a sanitation system. It cleans the knives, and the guy at the end takes all the knives and puts them back in the box to get sent out for the next week. So it's kind of like an assembly line. The knives come in, goes through the 3-4 step process, and then back in the box for the next week's delivery.
But obviously hand sharpened, like you said.
Yeah.
So someone is doing it. There's not a machine yet that's doing this all for you.
Right. Yeah. That's our main thing that we've stuck with. This 3-step process is the way my great grandfather did it, everything by hand, and it's still the best way to do it. So we, a lot of companies have tried to do shortcuts, remove one process, remove the middle process with the stand-up grinder, or remove the third process and take a step out to, save time, lower labor costs, but the customer knows the difference. They can see that the knife's not staying sharp. So we've stuck with that. It's the best way to do it, and it's been working for us.
That's so. When you said it's the best way, is it the best way because that's kind of what you're seeing, or why do you think it's the best way? Because it's just the machines.
Well, the machines. There's a lot of different machines they have made to, you stick it in a machine and it does all the processes at once. It just sharpens everything. But those knives don't. They've been tested. They have not. The edge doesn't last. So there's been lots of different machines invented over the year to try to like shortcut all these longer processes. But this old process that we use, we've dabbled in these newer processes, but we tested out with customers, and the old world way of doing it is still the best way.
The best way. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And what start to finish? You hand your guy the knife to go through all 3 steps. How long is that for one knife?
For one knife, it probably takes maybe like 3 minutes per knife, like a minute per station.
Oh, no shit. So you're banging out a lot of knives.
Yeah.
It takes quite a bit, huh?
I would say these guys are sharpening around 50,000 knives a week.
50,000 knives a week?
Yeah.
Damn, that's a lot of knives.
Yeah, we sharpen most of our stuff out of our Stone Park location. So a lot of the knives start there, but then our guys go out and, to all these different areas I was telling you about in the Midwest.
Yeah, damn, that'd be cool to see. Just fucking bunch of sharpening stations. So how many sharpeners do you have?
We have 4 lines going right now. So we have about around 18 guys in there doing all the sharpening processes. And then we have maybe another 12 or 13 different route drivers.
Wow, so that's a nice operation there.
Yeah. It's we've come a long way. It was just in the beginning it was just myself, my father, and our partner Eddie. He runs our shop. And then my other brothers came in a little along the way, and we've grown a lot since 2012. That's when we got up and running.
How long should a typical knife last? Like how many times can you sharpen it before it's like, hey, this one's got to go?
It depends on the use, but usually they last maybe like 4 to 6 months.
Oh, really? So there's kind of I'd say it's a decently high turnover, right?
Yeah. But it depends on the customer as well. Like each customer has their own preference. Some customers like the brand new knives, big and wide, because every time you sharpen it, it takes a little bit of metal off. They get smaller and smaller and smaller, and so they prefer the knife changed out like every month or every 2 months. But then you have customers that like the smaller ones because they're lighter, they're easier to use. Because using a knife for 8 hours straight, it gets heavy and on the wrist. So it depends. Yeah, some we have to change out every 2 months, some every 6 months. It really just depends.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's such a big deal for people. Just like, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's part of the deal is the customer doesn't have to buy knives all the time. That's part of our deal is we replace the knives because you're renting them. You don't have to purchase any new knives or equipment.
Now, do people come at this method, or people like, oh, that's a crazy method, the renting method, just buy your own, you'll pay less than long run? Or is this like pretty standard how most places do it?
Yeah, it's pretty standard how most places do it. There's a decent amount of food service places that just buy their own knives and buy their own equipment, but they're not getting, the quality that they should get and that they need.
And is there a certain food that's really hard on the knife?
Yeah, I mean there's when you're working with meat and bones and things like that, you hit the bone, you could chip the knife. So there's lots of different onions and like vegetables that are harder to cut through. There's different knives for each type of vegetable and different types of foods as well. So
like there's some places you get it back from, you're like, man, this fucking place has a number on these knives.
Oh yeah. We get chips, like we get broken knives here and there, but it's it's normal for us.
Is everybody pretty straight up though? Do you ever get some knives and it's like, these are always fucked up, like they're doing something's not right?
Yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah.
Or they get banged up from time to time. Just people opening stuff they shouldn't,
And is that all fine? Like you're just like, that's part of the game.
I mean, we address it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're messing up our knives. You can't do that, or we're gonna have to charge you.
Yeah. Which is fair.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fair. Man, interesting stuff. Like I said, it's just a little thing that I don't think people are aware of unless you're in the game. So
yeah,
that's crazy. Anything else we didn't get to here that's particularly interesting in the knife sharpening game?
It's a good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, if not, that's fine. I just figured I'd ask if there's certain part of the business that you found fascinating or something. But if there's not, if this is just sounds like you're just playing ball at this point. So I get it.
Yeah, I mean, nothing too crazy. We do a lot of other stuff with the repairs of like food equipment. So we get into that. We sharpen like different blades that they use in the kitchen, like deli slicers, things like that, mixers, and so there's more stuff that we get into with the other than the knives that we try to dabble in. It's a need for customers that we service. So.
How good is a deli slicer good? How long is a deli slicer good for?
Again, it depends on use. Some have like a little sharpening attachment that are connected to it, but usually, most customers, we do it once a month or every other month. That's especially like grocery stores when they're cutting deli meats nonstop. They got to keep those things sharp.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite brand of household knives?
Not in particular. I mean, Wiskoff is like a really good brand that a lot of people like. I would say that's one of the top ones that,
Yeah.
that's
So if
around.
like your buddy or your, whoever is like, hey, just bought a house. I need a knife set. That's your recommendation typically?
Yeah. I'll recommend them. I mean, we have a couple of sets that we sell to, our customers as well. But that's one of the top brands that you can get.
Is that an easy housewarming gift for you to someone? You just like, hey, here's your set of knives on me.
Yeah, that's basically, that's my go-to.
That is nice.
Yeah, wedding gift
nice.
for sure.
Damn, that's sweet. And it's so old school, man. So you said your grandpa's from Italy, right?
Yeah, he came with his brothers back in the 20s. And they're all from this one little small town. It's called Giustino and Pinzolo. And basically all these like different Italian families migrated to the United States, mostly Chicago, New York, and they just kind of spread out different areas and opened up their own knife companies. It's all a bunch of different Italian families.
That's awesome. Like I would be something I'd love to see on like a busy storefront, like a busy street, just people in the window sharpening knives.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's probably really cool. All right then, Johnny. Thank you. Where could people find your stuff? I don't know if you want to blast it out there, say wherever. Social media, address, whatever you want to say, let them know.
Yeah, our company name's Maestranzi Sons Knife Services. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and our website's maestranzisons.com. We're on the corner of North Avenue and Manheim in Stone Park.
Beautiful. All right, Johnny. I appreciate it. Thank you. You got me some knives too, so thank you for that as well.
Yeah, you could put them in your kitchen
and
test them out yourself.
Yeah, I'm excited to check those out. Thanks a lot, Johnny. This was great.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. That's it for today. We'll be back on Monday. We'll see you then.